Hare Krishna, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Krishna. Does it sound okay? It's a little bit not too loud. No? Okay. This again is going down. Oh, Krishna. We put all this tape there, but everybody just keeps on. And then I end up like this. And nothing I can do about it. We need some tape. Hansagati, ask Hansagati or Jito or whatever, whether there's some tape. Because this is not acceptable. Still. Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharika Giridhari Shri Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Govinda Gopinath Madan Mohan Jiva Ki Jai Jai Nityalila Pravishno Vishnupad Paramahansa Statarasata Shri Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Shri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande. Is he coming? Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jataha Patakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Radhika Shri Vishak. It's going like this.
Yeah, hold on to it.
Hold on to it.
No, it's one thing.
That's why all this tape is there.
It's tight there. It's inside here that's bad.
Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanam Jana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharani Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashtachya Desatarani Namam Vishnupadaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayaniti Namani Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Rakshak Sridhara Goswami Niti Namani Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahabhadanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gaura Jise Namaha Nityanandam Namastubhyam Premananda Pradayane Kalo Kalmashanashaya Janava Pataye Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavasya Cha Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavachai Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. First of all, I'm offering my unlimited Dandavat Pranams, my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipable beloved Gurudev, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupad, Paramahansa Asto Tarasata Sri Srila, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada. And I'm offering the same unlimited Dandavat Pranams and Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipable beloved Siksha Gurudevs, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupad, Paramahansa Astutarasata Sri Srila, Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj, and Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupad, Paramahansa Astutarasata Sri Srila, Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And I offer my unlimited Dandavat Pranams to the lotus feet of all of my Sri Sri Rupanuga Guru Varga, and my Dandavat Pranams to all the Vaishnavas and the Vaishnavis. Okay, so now we're continuing with Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's commentary on Sri Upadeshamrita, the 2 verses of the Upadeshamrita, verse 2 and 3, and the 3rd verse. We're nearly finishing the end of his commentary. He wrote 12 essays, one for each one of the 6 positive qualities for bhakti, and for 6 negative qualities for bhakti. And we've just completed a whole section in which he was putting forward all the teachings that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave to Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, and specifically were for renunciant devotees. So now we're going to continue. Yesterday he told this has jumped ahead a little bit. Oh yes, okay, I remember. Oh, okay. So here's a section now where he's describing the eating and the sleeping of a renunciant Vaishnava. In other words, in this commentary here, everything in the renunciant's life, every aspect of life is covered, section by section. What they should do, how they should behave as renunciants, and how they should not behave as renunciants. And in many cases, he was citing examples of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, because his sannyas was the ideal given for the conditioned souls. Therefore, he took sannyas at the age of 24. And for 24 years, he showed the example, perfect example of a renunciant sannyasi. So now, we're reading this section. In the days of his concluding pastimes, Sri Mahaprabhu was absorbed day and night in the same mood of separation that the distressed Viyogini Srimati Radhika was absorbed in when Sri Krishna went to Mathura. So what was Mahaprabhu's mood? In his concluding pastimes, you know that he stayed in Puri the last 18 years. He traveled for 6 years all around India, South India, and went to Vrindavan and also through Bengal. So that was his beginning 6 years of his sannyas. But for the last 18 years, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not leave Jagannath Puri. And you can go to this very day in Jagannath Puri to the very place where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lived. His room is preserved there. What's the name of Mahaprabhu's room? Gambira. Gambira, actually, the word Gambira means very deep and very secret. Gambir. So, there are so many descriptions in the final chapters of Antyalila of Chaitanya Charitamrita, how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lived. All of his various extreme separation pastimes are vividly described. Vividly described. So that is one of our greatest treasures in Gaudiya Vaishnava literature, is the pastimes described by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's moods in his final years on the planet. So here, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is bringing us there into that section of Mahaprabhu's Leela. He's about to describe one particular pastime that Mahaprabhu performed in that time period. But he's opening up a window for us to look into. He begins to describe that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was literally absorbed day and night. In what? Extreme separation. You have to read it yourself to really get some little iota of an understanding. Because our Gurudev has told us that what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was experiencing, how his body was being pulled apart in extreme separation mood. His arms, legs elongated, even separated at the joints. But then again, he would return to normal. So Gurudev said, this is not described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto. This kind of extreme separation mood was actually experienced by Srimati Radhika. But it is not described. Too much painful for the devotees to hear that. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, exactly in the mood of Srimati Radharani's separation, when Krishna left on the chariot of Akrura from Nandagaon, from Vrindavan, and how the gopis lived out their lives in separation mood. Krishna wanted to understand. This is why he came. He wanted to understand and experience Srimati Radhika's extreme Unnata Ujjvala Bhav, Mahabhav moods. He could not understand. That's all described in the 4th chapter of Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, in these final concluding pastimes, Sri Mahaprabhu was absorbed day and night in the same mood of separation that the distressed Viyogini Srimati Radhika was absorbed in when Sri Krishna went to Mathura. This term here, Viyogini, our Gurudev has elaborated on 3 different forms or 3 different natures of Srimati Radhika. One is called Vrishabhanu Nandini, which means what? The daughter of Vrishabhanu Maharaj. Yes. So Vrishabhanu Nandini is the eternal form of Srimati Radhika. That is why when we chant her pranam mantra, we say Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi. Vrishabhanu Sute means to the daughter of Vrishabhanu. Pranamami Hari Priya. So, when Krishna, in his eternal form as Brajendra Nandan Shyama Sundar, is in Vrindavan, performing his pastimes as the Srimad Bhagavatam has revealed to the entire world. The pastimes, the Leelas performed, Braj Leela, pastimes of Krishna. So for his first 11.5 years, he remained always in Vrindavan. He never came out of Vrindavan. Srimad Bhagavatam describes how King Kamsa one day sent Akrura, the uncle of Krishna, to come to Vrindavan and bring him to Mathura on his chariot, and he gave him the royal chariot to come to Vrindavan, right? And that whole history, how when he arrived, he was greeted by Nanda Maharaj and so forth, and how he described to Nanda Maharaj and the cowherd men that he has been sent by Kamsa because there's going to be a wrestling match in Mathura. But of course this was a ruse. Actually Kamsa's intention was to do what? To watch a wrestling match? Yes, because he kept on trying all throughout Krishna's life. He sent one demon after another, so long list of demons. Every single one of them did not return. They were all killed by Krishna. So then Kamsa thought, okay, now that Krishna, he's old enough, we'll make a public assembly where we'll have a sporting event of the greatest, strongest wrestlers in our kingdom. They will come, and this Krishna and Balaram, they will wrestle with our wrestlers, and our wrestlers will just tear them apart, finish them. But I want to make sure, so even before they reach the wrestling arena, there will be one very big elephant, Kuvalayapid, and he will first kill Krishna, so there won't be any possibility. But if somehow or other Krishna escapes, then these wrestlers will kill him. That was Kamsa's plan, yes? So anyway, Akrura was a great devotee, very great devotee. And he was entering Vrindavan for the first time. He's the uncle of Krishna, but he had not yet seen Krishna. but he was a very great devotee. And all the details are described how when he came into the area of Braj and he saw imprints of the lotus feet of Krishna on the sand and on the land, he came off of his chariot and threw himself on the ground, touching the imprints, Krishna's lotus feet, paying obeisances, absorbed in ecstasy. He offered prayers. Anyway, when he finally did come into Braj, then the news was given that Krishna and Balaram and the cowherd people, they're invited, cowherd men. And Nanda Maharaj thought, oh, this is a good time, we can pay our taxes. So they came on bullock carts. But first Krishna went ahead on the chariot of Akrura. But what did the gopis feel? Huh? What did the gopis feel?
Separation?
Yeah. They felt like their very life heirs were being pulled out of their bodies, like they were going to die. They could not tolerate that Krishna was going to get on the chariot and leave Vrindavan. So, but he did, apparently. He apparently left on the chariot of Akrura. But then what happened? I'm quizzing all of you today.
They hid themselves in front of the chariot?
Well, yes, they made their efforts to stop the chariot. Even throwing themselves in front of the wheels, pulling on the reins of the horses, anything possibly. This was terrorizing them, that Krishna would leave, but it had to happen. Akrura somehow or other maneuvered the chariot, and Krishna and Balaram went off into the distance, and the gopis, they never left that place. In the forest, at the base of Nandagaon. So, but then, as the chariot proceeded, then the dusk came. And that was the time for Anik, for chanting Gayatri Mantra. All the twice-born personalities will always chant Gayatri Mantra 3 times daily. So, Akrura, at a beautiful pond that was there, stopped the chariot, and then Krishna and Balaram continued sitting on the chariot, and he went into the water of the pond, and he dunked himself below the water. But when he dunked himself below the water, what did he see?
Krishna.
Huh?
Krishna.
He saw Vishnu lying on Ananta Shesha with sages glorifying. And then he also saw Krishna and Balaram. And then he came up from the water and he looked on the chariot. He still saw Krishna and Balaram there. So anyway, he completed his anik and then came back to the chariot. But why did he see this vision? This is actually called Akrura Ghat. We go there on the Braj Mandala Parikrama. So what was the meaning of this?
Krishna,
This vision?
Krishna and Balaram are his worshipful Lord.
Yeah.
That Krishna never leaves Vrindavan?
Yes. Yes. Because he saw them in both places. And this was the borderline of Vrindavan. The borderline. So, Vrindavana prityaja padam ekam nagachati. In the Shastras it's told that Krishna never sets foot, one single footstep outside of Vrindavan. Ever. You see? So, when Akrura saw this vision, this meant that actually the Krishna Balaram that he saw underneath the water are the original Krishna and Balaram who are not leaving Vrindavan. And the Krishna and Balaram on the chariots are their expansion. Vasudeva and Sankarshan. Vasudeva Krishna, Sankarshan, Balaram. And it is them who went on to Mathura. So actually Krishna did not leave Vrindavan, but this whole pastime is performed by Yogamaya. And Yogamaya gives the moods to all the Brijavasis, because they can't see Krishna. But actually Krishna is still there in another, what is called a prakosht. You know what a prakosht is? You ever heard that term? Gurudev used to say, another prakosht. Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharika Radha Govinda Jiyo Ki Jai. Jai Jai Shri Radhe. Vrindavaneshwari Shrimati Radharani Ki Jai. So, of course, we can say it's another reality, almost like a dimension in Western terms of Western. It's another section, but it's not visible to the Vrijavasis, that Krishna is still there in Vrindavan. So it's almost like hidden, you see. So Prakosht, Krishna never left Vrindavan. The original son of Maharaj Nanda, Mother Yashoda, he never left Vrindavan. In another Prakosht, he was simultaneously there. In all those years that Krishna had gone to Mathura and Dwarka, but actually he was there. These are all confidential explanations by our previous acharyas on this section of Srimad Bhagavatam. Otherwise, it's hidden also, these truths. In the general reading, it's hidden. And it appears from the very beginning of Krishna's appearance that he is the son of Vasudeva and Devaki, and he was born in the prison house of Kamsa, right? And then brought across the Yamuna River and so forth. But in actuality, no, that's the Vasudeva Krishna feature, and that's why he didn't appear as a baby in the prison house. He appeared 16 years old, fully dressed, crown, hair, everything. But in Braj, in Gokul, Mother Yashoda actually gave birth. And that's the original Krishna. So that original Krishna, the other Krishna, the Vasudeva expansion, was being carried by Vasudeva across the Yamuna River and so forth. And when he came there to Gokul, everyone was asleep, and he entered into the maternity room and he saw there two children. He saw one child, which was a female child, baby girl. But it was hidden from his vision by Yogamaya that also there was a second child. Two children took birth. And the Krishna that he was carrying in his arms, then he put that Krishna down there next to Mother Yashoda and took the baby girl, right? But actually, that Krishna merged into the original Krishna. But Yogamaya did not allow him to see that. And then when he was leaving on the chariot of Akrura, then that original Krishna remained in Vrindavan. Did you know all these things?
I heard vaguely about it.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah, you did also? Yes. So here's the thing, that when Srimati Radharani was living from her babyhood and growing up together with Krishna and the gopis and all cowherd boys, all of those pastimes of their babyhood, their childhood, their youth, everything, Srimati Radhika is her original form of Rishabhanu Nandini. Okay? This is what I was referring to. The daughter of King Rishabhanu, right? But when Krishna apparently left on the chariot to go to Mathura, then actually this is another form of Radhika stayed, just like the form of Krishna expanded as Vasudev Krishna, right? So Srimati Radhika also had another expansion that manifested at that time, because Radhika also never leaves Vrindavan, and Radhika is always absorbed in Vrindavan, in Krishna. In this case, now her separation mood became so prominent. So her form of her experience, her feelings of being separated from Krishna is called Viyogini. V means separated from Krishna, separation, Viyog. So Srimati Radhika is in this mood of Viyogini. So she's called Viyogini Radhika. And here it's being told, our acharyas know this, that feature of Srimati Radhika, who felt such extreme separation from Krishna, is what Mahaprabhu, in the mood of Srimati Radhika, was plunged into that separation mood. He was exactly tasting those moods that Srimati Radhika tasted and endured all those years. So in his final pastimes, he went deeper and deeper and deeper into these internal moods. And all these amazing transformations of his body took place due to the ecstasy that he was experiencing. Because separation mood is the highest extreme ecstasy. And so, Mahaprabhu was in those moods internally day and night. Just as Srimati Radhika was in the forest next to Nandagaon, day and night, constantly absorbed in these moods. Yes. And later on, there was the pastime, as you know, of the Brijbasis going for a journey to Kurukshetra, where there was going to be a solar eclipse, you know. And all of the Yadu dynasty was coming there. And this would be the first time that all of the Brijbasis are seeing Krishna again. He had gone to Mathura, and then finally to Dwarka, and became a great king. So now they're going to see Krishna for the first time in Kurukshetra. As you probably heard and you know, that the whole pastime of the Ratha Yatra festival is exactly performed in the moods of the gopis and Srimati Radhika seeing Krishna at Kurukshetra, but wanting to bring him back to Vrindavan, right? And so in their hearts, they perform this Ratha Yatra of pulling Krishna on a chariot back to Vrindavan. Yeah? And this chariot was their heart. And their love for Krishna were like the ropes that they would pull the chariot. So the Ratha Yatra festival is actually a reenactment every year for Lord Jagannath of this pastime of the gopis meeting Krishna at Kurukshetra, especially Srimati Radhika, seeing him there. Yes, and so that pastime is called Samyogini Radha. When Radha left from Vrindavan and went there with the Brijbasis and met with Krishna. So that's called Samyog. Viyog means separation and Samyog means meeting. So Srimati Radhika's mood of seeing Krishna at Kurukshetra is called Samyogini Radha. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's experienced those moods of Radhika in the Rath Yatra festival, of again being reunited with Krishna at Kurukshetra, but not being satisfied, because she didn't want to see Krishna there with all the kings and the elephants and the horses and soldiers. She wanted to see Krishna again as a cowherd boy in Vrindavan. You see? So the sweetness of the Rath Yatra festival can only be experienced by those Vaishnavas who are conversant with all of these inner moods, you see. So now, because this is explaining this section is going to explain how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was deeply absorbed in those moods of separation in Jagannath Puri, and his renunciation that he was outwardly displaying, because it was getting more and more and more extreme. His outward renunciation was becoming more and more extreme as his internal moods went deeper and deeper, you see. So his renunciation reached its utmost pinnacle. And he was oblivious to hunger and thirst, Mahaprabhu. And day and night, streams of tears would flow from his eyes. His body, which was softer than a flower, had become dry like a thorn. Devotees were greatly aggrieved to see his extremely emaciated body lying on dried banana leaves. That's what he wanted to lie down on, just dry banana leaves on the hard floor, right? But who could say anything to him? This is the question here. The devotees were so aggrieved, but who could say anything to him? Now, there is one devotee of Mahaprabhu, Jagadananda. Have you heard of him before? Jagadananda. He was one of Mahaprabhu's premi bhaktas. And he would feel great pain upon witnessing him perform such severe austerities. Finally, he bought a beautiful piece of cloth from the market, and he had it dyed saffron color. He had it dyed saffron color. He then had a comfortable mattress and pillow made with that cloth. He stuffed them with cotton, and he gave them to Govinda, the personal servant of Mahaprabhu, saying, "Brother, lay these out before Mahaprabhu." Then Govinda reluctantly did so. As soon as Mahaprabhu saw a mattress and pillow, he ordered Govinda to immediately throw them out. He angrily told Swarup Damodar, "All of you are determined to destroy my dharma. Jagadananda desires for me to enjoy sense objects, despite my being a sannyasi. Today, a mattress and a pillow are required, and tomorrow a bed will be required. The day after that, a masseur will be needed to rub my feet and massage me with oil. This does not befit a sannyasi. All a sannyasi needs is some simple food to maintain his body, and for sleeping, the earthen ground is sufficient. None of you should do anything to spoil my sannyas dharma." Everyone became silent. You've not heard this pastime before?
I haven't.
Yeah. Now, but Jagadananda, he was very discontented. He consulted with Swarup Damodar, and then the following day, he gathered some dried banana leaves which he tore into small pieces with his nails. And then he stuffed them into a very thin mattress and into a pillowcase that had been made from Mahaprabhu's clothing. After many requests and prayers, Mahaprabhu agreed to use them. In this way, each and every activity of Mahaprabhu is exemplary for renunciant Vaishnavas. So you see how intimately connected, how Mahaprabhu's external renunciation was actually mirroring his internal extreme moods of separation. But for the sake of teaching everyone externally, Mahaprabhu showed very, very hard adherence, strict adherence. And he didn't like that his devotees, they would disturb that, his sannyas dharma, you see. So Mahaprabhu demonstrated like this throughout all those years of his sannyas lila, and set such a high standard for the devotees. And we've been discussing these teachings of how Mahaprabhu told to Raghunath Das Goswami and so on, and gave specific instructions. So Mahaprabhu showed that highest standard, and we've also been discussing how that has been adjusted in the present day. No one can adhere to such standards of extreme renunciation. We have seen that in the time of Srila Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, his Guru Maharaj, Srila Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj, and also Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, their extreme renunciation, extreme. No one can show that. It is not an external thing. Renunciation is not the process of bhakti, but it is a byproduct. It is concomitantly, simultaneously, it manifests in a devotee's life as his internal moods of deeper and deeper attachment to Krishna and serving Krishna. As they increase proportionately, the external renunciation also, it increases automatically. It is not something that they are endeavoring to do. You understand? It's not that they're conscious, oh, I want to become more renounced. No. The internal moods of Krishna prema automatically bring that. And also, we've been studying how jnana, knowledge, realized, very deep realized knowledge, increases automatically. Automatically it comes along with bhakti, pure bhakti. When pure bhakti is executed, these two things, jnana and vairagya, knowledge and renunciation, they will automatically manifest. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu manifested his first 24 years in his Navadvip pastimes of doing Harinam Samkirtan with all the Vaishnavas, you see. And then he became too much overwhelmed with Krishna prema. He had to leave his household life. But he is also doing that for particular purposes, to teach all the jivas and to show the pathway, you see. So now I'm just going to read a little bit more. It is telling here the necessity for both the householders and the renunciants to accept initiation into Krishna Nam and into Krishna Mantra, and the necessity of accepting a guru. Now, the proper conduct, the sadvriti for the Vaishnavas, whether householder or renunciate, is being explained. That's what this whole section is, this chapter. It's called sadvriti, proper conduct, following the sadhuvriti, the behavior of the sadhus, of the pure Vaishnavas. Yes. So there is no religious duty in this Kali Yuga other than, no religious duty in this Kali Yuga other than the chanting of Sri Krishna mantra and Sri Krishna Nam. No other dharma. This is the Yuga Dharma. Hence, since this is the fact, hence it is extremely necessary for all to accept initiation, Diksha, into Sri Krishna mantra. And here he's quoting, now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is quoting, how Sri Krishna mantra hoite habe samsara mochan. Jai Jagannath, Jai Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Radha Govinda Ki Jai. Jai Jai Shri. So he's quoting from Adi Lila Chaitanya Charitamrita, 7th chapter. Krishna mantra hoibe habe samsara mochan, Krishna nam hoite pabe Krishnara charan. Nam vina kali kale nahi ar dharma, sarva mantra sar nam e shastra marma. Krishna name jai ananda sindhu asvadan, Brahma ananda tar age kato daka sama. Sadanam labe jata labete santosh, e mata achar kore bhakti dharma posh. Gyan karma yoga dharme nahe Krishna vas, Krishna vash hetu ek prem bhakti ras. Now, this means, these verses mean, that Krishna mantra, you know what Krishna mantra is, the Gayatri mantras, and specifically Gopal mantra and so forth. So these verses mean that Krishna mantra, it destroys material bondage, and then through Krishna Nam, that means Harinam, then one attains the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. So Krishna mantra works in conjunction with Krishna Nam in this way. Krishna mantra destroys your material bondage. It's called samsar, right? So Krishna mantra hoite habe samsar mochan. Samsar mochan means freeing one from this samsar. And then Krishna Nam hoite pabe Krishna racharan. Through Krishna Nam, then the lotus feet of Krishna is attained. Nam vina kali kale nahi ara dharma. In Kali Kala, in the time of Kali Yuga, there is no other dharma, it says here. Nam vina, other than Nam. Sarva mantra sar nam e shastramar. And the essence of all mantras is the holy name of Krishna. E shastramarma. This is the teaching of the Shastras. So, this Krishna Nam is the essence of all mantras. The bliss of attaining the impersonal Brahma is but a drop compared to the bliss attained upon accepting shelter of Krishna Nam. So the impersonalists, they cannot even taste a tiny little drop of the bliss that is attained upon accepting the shelter of Krishna Nam, holy name of Krishna. Therefore, being satisfied with whatever one gets to maintain one's life, one ought to constantly perform kirtan of Krishna Nam. And following in this way, one must also propagate bhakti dharma. So two things, always chanting Krishna Nam and always performing, propagating bhakti dharma. Doing Krishna kirtan and propagating bhakti dharma. Following in this way, so Sri Krishna cannot be controlled by jnana yoga, by karma yoga, or other processes. They cannot control Krishna. Karma yoga, jnana yoga. He can only be controlled through prema bhakti. That's the only thing that can control Krishna. So, just a couple more minutes. In regard to accepting a guru, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila chapter 8, is mentioning. Here's coming, this is taken from Ramananda Roy Samvad, when Mahaprabhu spoke with Ramananda Roy. So in regard to accepting a guru, now this is quoted here, Kiba Vipra, Kiba Nyasi, Shudra Keni Noi, Jai Krishna Tattva Veta Se Guru Hoy, Raga Nuga Marge Tare Bhaje Jai Jan, Se Jan Pai Braje Brajendra Nandan, Siddha Dehe Chinti Kore Tahai Sevan, Saki Bhave Pai Radha Krishnera Charan. One who thoroughly knows Krishna Tattva and who performs bhajan of Krishna through Rag Marg, he is alone a bona fide guru. Be that person, whether that person is a brahmana, a sannyasi, or even a shudra. By performing bhajan under the guidance of such a bona fide guru, one will very quickly attain service to Brajendra Nandan Sri Krishna in Braj. A sadhak who, at the time of sadhana, meditates upon and serves according to his siddha rupa, that is, knowing himself to be a maidservant of Srimati Radhika, he very quickly attains the service of Radha Krishna in the mood of a Saki. So these verses are extracted from this 8th chapter, wherein Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is hearing from Ramananda Roy how the ultimate goal of life can be attained. And especially describing here that one must have the guidance of a bona fide guru who himself has realized, who is practicing Rag Marg and doing Krishna bhajan. He thoroughly knows Krishna Tattva, everything. Then that devotee can enter very deeply into this pathway of worshipping Radha and Krishna in Braj and attain his eternal spiritual relationship with Krishna in this mood of Sakhi Bhav. So tomorrow, yes, we will continue. So many beautiful instructions in these teachings of Upadeshamrita and extracted by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and presented to the world. So, Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubheva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Will you come?
Yeah, we're leaving now.